In today's video, the White House puts activist judges on notice. Tom Homan has to shut down the media after another misleading story, and mainstream media publishes polls that contradict each other.
White House has put up about 100 posters of what they say are unauthorized immigrants who have been arrested for violent crimes. You can see them there. They put them up on the driveway of the White House. If you look here, that's the West Wing just at the forefront, the executive mansion itself to the left. But what's particularly noteworthy about this location is it is right directly behind the positions where TV correspondents do their hits from the White House lawn. So therefore, no matter what network you're on, that includes MSNBC, if you're doing a hit from the White House right now, those pictures will be behind you. The White House doing a briefing in about a half hour about what they're doing here.
Let's just understand what's going on here. The Trump administration loves to respond when mainstream media starts running misleading stories about what they're doing. For example, over the weekend, the misleading story was what? The Trump administration is deporting 4-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 7-year-olds, American citizens. And the way to own the narrative again is to do something like this. I think that's what's going on. I think they're playing politics all day long. And so as a result, these scumbags are very clear here on the screen. Who are they? Well, arrest of a Jamaican national convicted of first-degree murder. Another one was convicted of rape. Another one convicted of murder, aggravated sexual assault of a child, predatory sexual assault of a child. We go on and on and on. These are the worst of the worst. That's the point. Now, Fox News believes this is a warning to activist judges. Take a look.
You can see behind us in the wider shot, the North Lawn is dotted with 100 yard signs that show illegal immigrant mugshots next to the heinous crime that they have been accused of. And if there are judges in this country who are trying to help these illegal immigrants, the 100 listed on the lawn, avoid prosecution, then the White House has a big problem with them too.
So expect this week to be a reminder of all the things that President Trump has accomplished, because what the White House is doing as well is that it's a celebration of the first 100 days in office. So they're going to highlight all of the accomplishments, and this is one of them. But that doesn't mean MSDNC is going to go along with this, okay? Because they're already pushing back at the 100 mugshots on the White House lawn, because here's what they said.
So I have to say, one of the biggest challenges that we have with the deportations that we know of so far, for example, with Kilmer Abrego Garcia, we don't know if they've had due process. We don't know if, in fact, these individuals do have a rap sheet. So I would encourage those individuals that have that as a backshot to blur those people out. The job of journalism is to ensure that we are presenting the facts, that we are cross-referencing. We know that PolyFact actually checked the Trump administration because of an earlier picture that they released on Kilmer, recognizing that it was altered, that it was false, that they had placed gang signs, tattoos on him that weren't real. And so I would really, the press right now, we are absolutely under attack. Our job is always to have our true north, to make sure that we're presenting balanced news, and making sure that we are not putting folks that are potentially in danger, and having that representation of those pictures in the background. We can't allow that to basically for us to carry the water of potentially innocent people. So I would encourage, I recognize live shots are tough, but I would encourage folks to actually make sure that those shots are blurred to the best of your abilities.
Okay, so if someone can please explain this to me, how is putting 100 mugshots of illegal aliens on the White House lawn putting people in danger? I'd really love for someone to explain that. That's number one. But number two, she goes on this rant about Mr. Garcia and how photos were doctored. Let's say we believe her, right? Let's say she's right. The photos were doctored. Was the court documents doctored as well, where the judge acknowledged that Mr. Garcia was and is a MS-13 gang member? Also, were the court documents doctored when his wife accused him of beating her up? And the White House is already responding to the media who refuses to report on this properly. Here's what they said.
Well, look, the mainstream media, as you know, Brian, doesn't want to cover this story. What we've done is get violent criminals and other lowlifes on the street. It's literally a murderer's row here on the lawn of the White House. And these are people that we've taken out of the country since we came into office. Last month, we had the lowest border crossings on record. And that's a result of not new legislation, as Biden said we would need, but just a new president getting the job done. We've reunited over 5,000 100,000 children with their families or a safe guardian since we came into office. We're cleaning up our communities. We're getting rid of all these guys. I mean, look at these. These are all heinous crimes. These are violent crimes. That would be a Law and Order episode, and we have to get all of them out of the country.
And here's another example of how Democrats see this. Jessica from the 5 on Fox News wrote this. The Trump administration's response to deporting a 4-year-old American with cancer. Put up your yard signs. Now, we already debunked that misleading story, by the way, because the 4-year-old, right, is an American citizen, but the mother is an illegal alien. And the mother requested that the 4-year-old go with her back to her home country. That's the actual story here, folks. So I think one important question that needs to be answered is, where are we at actually when it comes to deportations? What are the numbers? How many are still left in the country? And I think even more important than that probably would be, how many violent, criminal, illegal aliens are still left in this country, and also ones that the Trump administration believes is a national security threat? Will Tom Homan answer that this morning?
How many of the individuals that are in the United States illegally are people like this, really bad people?
Well, first of all, how many illegal aliens I think in the United States? At least 20 million. Here's where'd you come up with that number? We've been speaking about 12 million for 20 years. We know we got 10.5 that we know of came to the border. How many don't we know of? I talked about known gotaways at 2 million. How many unknown gotaways do we have? Like between the Big Bend sector in Texas, where there's no technology, how many 1,000 people dig across through there? We wouldn't know. We would know now. But, you know, so I would venture over 20 million. But your question is, last count, last I looked, there was about 700,000 illegal aliens with criminal charges walking the streets of this country. 700,000. And that's what we're looking for now. That's what we're prioritizing, them and national security threats.
And that's the answer. But again, mainstream media is not going to acknowledge that the Trump administration is going after 700,000, not the 20 million, right? They are prioritizing, which I always knew they would, because it just makes logical sense to go after the most violent and people that they deem to be national security threats. And this segues perfectly into our next story. For some reason, over the weekend, there's been a coordinated effort to drop poll after poll after poll showing President Trump with a negative approval rating, but more importantly, that he's upside down on immigration. Now, I'm not too sure I actually believe these polls, and I'm going to show you some reasons why with some receipts. But first, let's hear how they're using this talking point to suppress the accomplishments that the White House was actually trying to highlight today. So let's start here with how ABC questioned Tom Homan this morning.
Latest ABC News, Washington Post, and Ipsos poll shows 53% of Americans disapprove of President Trump's handling of immigration. A plurality, 48%, say President Trump is going too far in deporting undocumented immigrants. What's your response to that?
Look, I'm not running a popularity contest. I'm enforcing the laws. And by securing the border, like I said this morning, we have the most secure border in the history of the nation today. And like I say, crossings are down 96, 97%, depending on what week you look at. And like I said this morning, secure border saves lives. No one wants to talk about that. Because in the last 4 years, we had a 600% increase in sex trafficking. You had over 400 people on terrorist watch lists that crossed that southern border. You had 250,000 Americans dying from fentanyl coming across that border. We're saving lives every day, and that's not the story gets out. So a lot of this polling has to do with the misreporting by much of the media out there.
Tom Homan's been warning American citizens about this mess for quite some time. And that's why I'm going to warn you at this point, along with our sponsor, about your retirement. It's no secret that President Trump has declared a trade war with China. He's standing up to them finally. But this is not stopping billionaires like Warren Buffett from dumping $133 billion worth of stocks. That's why thousands of IRA and 401k savers are shielding their savings with gold. And I trust the experts at Colonial Metals Group to help you do the same. So head over to freegoldguide.com/Devori or call 1-888-757-5158 to receive a free gold guide on how to bulletproof your savings with gold tax-free. You could also qualify for a free home safe and $7,500 of free silver. Again, you can head to freegoldguide.com/Devori or call 1-888-757-5158 or click the link in the description below.
Start with what you said this morning. The President Trump's border policies are saving lives. You say fewer people are making that journey, meaning fewer people are dying along the way, fewer women are being sexually assaulted and trafficked, fewer Americans are losing their lives to fentanyl brought across the border. And these numbers are dramatic. You're saying border crossers have gone from 15,000 illegal border crossings from 15,000 a day down to, you said, 178, I think, in the past 24 hours. So amid that, what do you say to concerns for those who are trying to escape violent situations in their countries?
Oh, look, there's a legal way to claim asylum and there's an illegal way to claim asylum. And if we look at the past 4 years of the Biden administration, millions of people came to the border and made an asylum claim. But if we look at the immigration court data over the last 10 years, EOIR, Executive Immigration Review, immigration courts, it shows over the last decade, nearly 9 out of 10 people who make an asylum claim at the border end up with an order removal because they're not escaping fear and persecution from their homeland because of their political affiliation, their race or religion. So, and we got to remember why 9 out of 10 are making a false asylum claim. They're clogging up the system because there are tens of thousands of people in this world who really are escaping fear and persecution from their homeland because of their race or religion or political affiliation are standing in back of the line. So the data speaks for itself. This is about asylum fraud, not about asylum.
You ever ask yourself this question? I ponder it sometimes. Like, what if the media used the same amount of energy and focus on actual victims that are American citizens due to fentanyl, due to human trafficking, due to illegal aliens who are committing crimes, especially terror organizations that have been set up here in our country? I mean, how about this? Even the scammers overseas who obviously are hacking people's personal information, committing identity fraud, and also scamming senior citizens. I mean, imagine if they actually focused their energy on issues like that. But they're so caught up in this whole moral high ground that they believe they hold. That's why they lose touch with just average Americans, because it doesn't pass the common sense test on how they talk about these things. Now, here's another example of that.
Betsy, how is the White House responding to these very bad polling numbers?
Well, the response is really just to change the subject. They are here celebrating how the president has performed over his first 100 days in office, and today is the focus is on immigration. So you can see the signs behind me highlighting some of the illegal immigrants they say have been arrested and convicted of crimes. Of course, it also comes as we've learned that 3 U.S. citizen children, a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old who is suffering from cancer, were deported alongside their mothers who were undocumented immigrants over the weekend. Asked in the Atlantic interview what would happen if the administration accidentally got this wrong, the president said, "Let me tell you, nothing will ever be perfect in this world." Wolf.
So, Betsy, those signs behind you on the north lawn of the White House, they were placed there by White House officials, not by the news media, right?
That's exactly right. And, you know, the president is so keenly aware of stagecraft. These have been behind every television live shot all day today, everyone taking pictures and getting that message out on their behalf.
Okay, so can someone please explain where Wolf Blitzer was going with that type of question? Did the news media put up the yard signs on the White House lawn? Where is he going with that? And secondly, you saw how they led with the entire narrative that Trump is deporting American citizens. We're talking about the 3 children, 4, 7, and 2-year-olds, but they failed to mention that their mothers are illegal aliens. For some reason, they always leave that out. Now, here's Tom Homan shutting the media down once again on this story.
If you enter this country legally, it's a crime. If you remain in this country legally and you ignore a judge's order about deporting, if you choose to have a U.S. citizen child, knowing you're in this country legally, you put yourself in that position. You put your family in that position. What we did is remove children with their mothers who requested the children depart with them. This was a parental decision, parenting 101. The mothers made that choice. And I tell you what, if we didn't do it, the story today would be Trump administration separating families again. No, we're keeping families together. So when a parent says, I want my 2-year-old baby to go with me, we made that happen. They weren't deported. We don't deport U.S. citizens. The parents made that decision, not the United States government. But I don't hear any questions about Laken Riley had a mother. She's never going to see her child again. Rachel Morin, she had 5 children. Those children are never going to see their mom again. This administration is doing the right thing.
Yeah, so this segues into our next story, because on top of this whole storyline that Trump is deporting American citizens, they're trying to use the bad polling numbers that came out over the weekend, which are flawed, by the way. And that's not just me being a partisan hack. There's actually some truth to it, which we'll talk about here shortly. But this is an effort to continue to control the narrative because that's what mainstream media would like to do. They leave out the fact that the mothers were illegal aliens. They leave out the fact when they publish these polls that it's majority Democrats answering them. So just to give you a little taste of what they're saying about President Trump's approval ratings, listen to this clip.
What do you think is fueling Trump's drop in support in the polls? There are so many things that people expect from him, especially the economy.
So many promises made, too, by the president as well, not only on the campaign trail, but certainly in these first 100 days. If you look at this right here, if you look at some of the issues, what is fueling this right now, it shows it's really across the board right now. And if you look at where he was in mid-February and you look where he is right now, he is underwater on every issue from a minimum of 3 percentage points to a maximum of 9 percentage points, specifically when it comes to inflation in the economy, as you point out, which is supposed to be his expertise at this point. What is also interesting, just overall too, Sarah, is that he is down 7 points from late February, as we note him being an all-time low. That is an amazing drop in such a short period of time. So Donald Trump right now is having to deal with some of this, some of the fallout with the reality that many of his programs that he's trying to institute and many of his cuts that he's trying to institute are just not taking hold.
All right, now let me share some context with you so you can understand my thinking, okay? When CNN releases a poll that favors President Trump, the reason why we talk about it and celebrate it is because we already know inherently most of the people that are being polled are not Trump supporters. So when CNN releases a negative poll of President Trump, we have to factor that in still. But let's first debunk this. Now, they say, according to CNN, he's underwater on immigration. They have him at 45%. However, when you look at the CBS poll that came out during the same time, they have him at 56% approval rating on immigration. And you guys know that President Trump had to respond to these polls. He said the great pollster John McLaughlin, one of the most highly respected in the industry, has just stated that the failing New York Times and ABC Washington polls about a person named Donald J. Trump are fake polls from fake news organizations. The New York Times has only 37% of Trump voters, and the ABC Washington Post poll only has 34% of Trump voters. Unheard of numbers unless looking for a negative result, which they are. Now, picking up where we left off yesterday, where Democrats spent 12 hours on the steps of the Capitol, spewing nonsense about how they're going to fight President Trump and not necessarily create solutions for everyday Americans. You have now the governor of Illinois coming out and saying he wants mass protests in the streets against Republicans. Listen to this.
Never before in my life have I called for mass protests, for mobilization, for disruption, but I am now. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. They have to understand that we will fight their cruelty with every megaphone and microphone that we have. We must castigate them on the soapbox and then punish them at the ballot box.
So the reaction here is that if President Trump or Republicans were speaking that way, we know how mainstream media would react. They would say that the president is inciting violence, he's acting like Hitler, he's being an authoritarian leader, all of these same talking points, right? And the whole point here is to highlight the hypocrisy and show you what both sides are really saying here. And I'm of the opinion that when people speak like this, I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, you're not helping, okay? Because that just creates a more divisive environment. That's just my own personal opinion. And now I want to hear your personal opinion. What do you think about the media continuing to run with this story about a 4-year-old, 7-year-old, and 2-year-old being deported when we know the mother was an illegal alien and requested them to go with her? That's number one. Number two, what about these polls that you're seeing come out from mainstream media? Do you buy them? Do you think they're accurate? Do you think America is just fed up with President Trump in these first 100 days? And more importantly, what do you think is the biggest accomplishment from President Trump in his first 100 days? Just give me all your thoughts and answers in the comments section below. Now, speaking about accomplishments here, President Trump yesterday announced a major tax update. This would impact Americans earning $200,000 or less. If you missed out on that update and stories from yesterday, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.